Hello there, my name is Ismail and welcome to Top Channel 101. So this is part 4 of our mini-series on how to make a weaponized satellite in Blender 2.8. And so we are starting on working with the materials, adding materials and textures. So what I'm doing here is add a background image or an HDRI image for not exactly the lighting, but just to give us that star field in the background. So yeah, I looked at some of the images I had in my library, but I couldn't find any. So I went to Google and searched for stars HDRI image, and I found a few images that I could use. And it's what I'm doing here. So you can just go to Google and do that yourself. Find some interesting images that you can use for your project, and load them as the environment image for your lighting, and it should give you the same. It should give you an interesting background for your sky. I don't think that's the sky. It's for the space, and because we are working outside the Earth, so that would be space. Yes, so I'm also adding a sun just for the lighting here to get some bit of lighting, and I'm switching between the world. I'm switching between the rendered view and material view just to see how the lighting looks. You're going to need some textures for the earth. So you can go and search for earth materials. So I search for the color map, a roughness map, bump map, and a normal map. And the good thing about this, there are a lot of areas where you can find these images in 4K resolution and even 8K resolution. So you can go there and download them. Just search Earth map, and you should find the textures that you want. There is this website here. What's it called? Yeah, I can't see it because I'm playing back in a very low resolution, so that I'm able to record this. So yeah, just go to this website here and find the resolution, the texture maps that you want to use. And the good thing is that if you're using Blender 2.8, the sphere you add should have UVs by default. So you don't have to UV unwrap the sphere. You just have to slap. You only need to slap the texture on top onto the image, onto the sphere, and it will map correctly. So so I added a principal shader, and now I just need to feed in the different textures. This part here, I'm just making a texture. I'm just creating the shader for the solar panels, and what I did is I found a building window image that had glasses, or the same texture that I'll use in the office building tutorial. If you remember that, is the same texture that I'm using here. So it's just basically an image, a building, an outside view of a building, an office building. So the glasses are going to be the textures for these panels here. You don't even need to use a texture. You can just add, you can just make the shader more shiny so that it can reflect on top of just other things around it. But because I wanted some detail in this, I used that texture there. And then for the frame where the glasses may sit, I just added a metal material, as you see what I'm doing here. So I'm doing this as the textures are downloading, because there were some of them were 16K textures, and they were really big textures, so they took some time. So you can use that time to work on other things. And here I'm adding some roughness using some scratch tileable texture that I have to add in those scratches. Yeah, for some reason here Blender was messing up, so I just had to restart, I think. Yeah. Yeah, so the panels don't really have to be that detailed because they're going to be a good distance away from the camera. And yeah, I think this was good enough for me, so I chose to go with that. And yeah. No, actually, I didn't use the texture because I think it didn't look good enough. So I changed to a brick texture that comes with Blender. So if you just search for bricks, you will see this texture. So I changed the colors a bit to get that pattern that you see there, and also reduce the scale of the bricks. And yeah, and for the roughness, I just used the same scratches that I used for the metal, and to get something that looks like that. And yeah, so because to make it so that the materials are applied on the other side as well, I just selected all the other objects on the other side and hit Ctrl L, and selected from the menu that comes up link object data to link the data on those objects to basically to make instances of the other objects, which will copy over all the data from those objects, including the materials that I wanted to have. So here I'm just adding some seams for UVs because in order for textures to be applied correctly, you need to have good UVs that don't stretch too much. So this I'm just adding UVs, and you can see the final UVs that I got there. They don't really have to be the best. You just have to just make sure that they're not overlapping and they are not too stretching. So again, I'm using the same tileable scratches that I have to add for the roughness of this shader here. So I was trying to go for that rubber feel, and because it was going to be from in a good distance, I didn't have to make it too complicated. So yeah, I'm just making first I'm creating the basic shaders here, using different textures and connecting them to the different nodes for the principal shader. Okay. Again, if you want to get the project, you can find it on my Patreon page, and everything there. If you want, you can also just download a solar panel texture. I think you saw that a few seconds ago. I searched for it, but I think it took a while to load, so I just decided to go with the brick texture. Also, make sure that you're saving, because Blender will crash a few times if the project is heavy as this was. So now we are going to create the earth shader to create that earth. And yeah, so after downloading this texture map, you just have to connect them to the respective nodes. And because this UV sphere comes with UVs already made, you can just connect the color map to the base color node and to the base color input, and I should have that connected. So I wanted to have day and night, and what I did is use a gradient texture and a color ramp to control the gradient position, and I tried to rotate the gradient a bit, but for some reason it wasn't giving me the results I wanted. So instead I just rotated the sphere itself so that I have night and day in the position that where I wanted it. So I'm just creating the gradient. I'm using it to create a mask that will mask day and night. So I'm going to have a day and night shader. So this is going to be our day shader. So areas that will be in daytime will be in the black part of the gradient, and the nighttime will be in the black part, and then the daytime will be in the white part of the gradient. So yeah, because the textures were a bit large, I had to wait for them to load up. So sometimes you will see me switching between working on the shader and going back to checking whether the textures have loaded up. So this is the normal map, and the good thing is that I downloaded all these maps from the same source, from the same website. So if I connect them, they align correctly without adjusting anything. You can see I don't have any UV texture coordinate mapping on the different textures that I'm using because they are all mapped in the same way. So I just need to connect them and they align perfectly. So you can see if you look at the color map, you see that those bumps are in the same position as the texture. I don't know if I show it in a second, but yeah, they align correctly if you're using the same website. I don't know if you try, but if they are not aligning, you can use the texture coordinate mapping to rotate or move the textures around so until you get the mapping correctly. So this, so I don't think I found a roughness map. So I only found a specular map. So I used that as the roughness and inverted the color because the shiny parts were coming up in the ocean areas instead of sorry, the shining parts were coming up on the continent or land areas instead of the oceans and sea areas. So I inverted that so that the shiny parts were the oceans and the non-shiny parts were the continents or where land is. So I'm just adding a bit of contrast here to get the roughness that I wanted. I think I mixed it with another map. I'm not sure what map that was, but yeah, because as I'm recording, I reduced the resolution of my preview window so that it plays back without stopping a lot. So I can't really see the naming on the textures, but so here what I'm doing is adding an emission shader and connecting it and mixing it with the principal shader. So the emission shader is going to be our nighttime, and I'm using the gradient color ramp to control where the nighttime starts and where the day time starts. And again, because our textures line up correctly, I just have to play around with the color ramp nodes to get what I want. Okay, so I'll stop here so that I can continue. I break this down into different parts before my computer crashes, and I'll see you in the next part, which will be part 5. Thank you.